Hello, happy 2018 and thanks for clicking. This year I thought about what different vlogs I could do. After all, I'm running out of Roman armour. It occurred to me that I'd never really done much on Greek vases, which is a real shame. So in 2018 I'm going to look at a different vase each month and create a short, yet hopefully interesting vlog for you to watch. Here we go with the first, and I hope you enjoy watching. To find more of my content, including links to podcasts, Instagram, Facebook as well as my articles, please go to my new website, ancientblogger.com. I'm also on Twitter, @ancientblogger, so feel free to come and say hi. The first image we'll look at you may have seen. It's certainly quite famous. The type of vase is an amphora, and the artwork is of a type known as Attic black figure. Depicted on the amphora is a scene where Achilles defeats the Amazon Penthesilea. For those of you who have followed my pumpkin carving exploits, you might recognise it as being one I attempted for Halloween last year. I'm sure deep down that Exekias, the artist who painted the image, can finally rest in peace now he has seen one of his finest creations replicated on a large fruit for an annual celebration of dead celebrity fancy dress. Well, it's what I tell myself. Back to the amphora. To start with, let's understand a bit about the amphora itself. The amphora is dated to around 525 BC, and this places it in what's referred to as the Archaic period. Traditionally, this covers the time from 800 BC till 479 BC. It's the precursor to the classical period where Athens grew to prominence. As you can see on the timeline, this predated a number of famous events. The Battle of Marathon, of Salamis, and even the earliest surviving play date to some time after this amphora was made. Moving from the when, we can look at the where. On this map, you can see Greece, and the highlighted area is Attica, the region or district in which Athens stood. A large body of pottery was created in this region, but the amphora wasn't discovered in Athens, or even Attica. Across the Adriatic Sea to the west of Athens stood the Italian peninsula. Around the time of the amphora's creation, it was a collection of tribes and factions. One of these was Rome, which at this point was ruled by a king, and to the north were the influential and powerful Etruscan city-states. It was in one of these, marked red on the map, where the amphora was found. The city-state in question was Volci, though on the map it's marked as Velch, which sounds more like a baddie's sidekick or something deeply unpleasant, so we'll stick with Volci. Volci was a wealthy city, and the amphora was found in an Etruscan tomb. I should mention that though the amphora was created around 525 BC, I'm not suggesting it was immediately shipped there. Ideally, we'd need to know the date of the tomb, and in order to help me, I tweeted Lucy Shipley, an Etruscan expert. Sadly, the tomb was excavated at a time when such records weren't kept. But Lucy did impart an interesting fact about the Etruscans and Attic black figure vases. Apparently, most of the Attic black and red figure vases we have come from the Etruscan region, leading them originally to being titled Etruscan vases. There seems to be quite an extensive trade here, so items like this must have been considered top quality luxury items, not just containers. This does remind us that prior to the rise of Athens, there was a developed trading network, not just restricted to the Aegean, it was going westwards as well. We know something about the amphora, when it was made and where it ended up, but who was responsible for it? Exekias is considered as one of the most outstanding artists of his time, and we'll see why when we look at the image. He's created a number of famous vases you might recognise. We know it's him, largely due to his style, but also because he often signed them. This signature didn't just say painted by Exekias, it stated that he also created the amphora or vase. I do wonder if he had the image he was going to paint in his mind when he was making the vase, or did he allow inspiration to him after he finished it? The image we see is of Achilles killing Penthesilea, an Amazon warrior at Troy. The myth goes that she joined after the death of Hector, so you won't find her referenced in Homer's Iliad. More curious is the myth that Achilles, either just after or upon killing her, fell in love with her. There are very many versions of this, from full-blown romance to Achilles simply feeling sorry for her. It's not quite Jack slipping into the icy depths, but as anyone who knows anything about Greek myth will tell you, romance can take very odd forms indeed. There's a lot to say about the image. To make it easier, let's focus on Achilles first. Achilles stands side on and in complete dominance. His shield, redundant, is held to the side of Penthesilea, giving some depth to the image. Achilles has no need of any defensive equipment. His victim exists within the space he has marked out. In both terms of stance and structure, Achilles is in complete control. Exekias was a master of detail, and one example can be seen here. Achilles' rear foot stands on tiptoe. This is partly to ensure the physiology looks correct. Try standing like that with both feet flat on the ground. But the reason he's on tiptoe is also to show him driving the spear into Penthesilea. His armour and his skin are dark, presumably echoing the burnished bronze, which Homer often comments on. And this might provide a challenge for some painters. A less capable artist might leave Achilles looking blocky. Exekias supplies us with plenty of detail. The swells in his chest portion of the armour, the greaves, and even the marked out biceps and triceps. And amidst this, a single glaring eye, which I think is pivotal to the image in more ways than one. Next up, the recipient of the spear and Achilles' gaze, Penthesilea. Penthesilea couldn't cut a more contrasting figure if she tried to. To start with, consider her pose, which is seen elsewhere on vases where characters are fleeing. Though stretched out, she crumples under Achilles. There's even a small burst of blood where Achilles' spear pierces her just below the throat. Exekias' command of detail can be fully appreciated with the armour of Penthesilea. The panther skin is ornate. It's crucial in placing her as very much the un-Greek. It's also where Exekias can shine as an artist. Even the peak of her helmet is painted with what looks like a griffin atop it. Then there's her reaction. Achilles is afforded a glaring eye, but Penthesilea sells the image further. She's both resigned and shocked. What looks like a small gasp is prevented by her death. Where Achilles seems to represent the solemn and demanding nature of melee warfare, Penthesilea is the human response to it. She's no innocent, has killed many herself, as she was an able fighter. But here she meets her end. In the Iliad, Achilles was the anti-hero, questioning the need for war. But here I can see that same comment being made through her death. We'll pull back now and pick up on that eye of Achilles I mentioned. The obvious line in the image to follow is the spear, but the eye line between the two suggests much more. Eye contact on vases could often suggest intimacy. Now let's consider this within the context of the image and the story of an Achilles and Penthesilea from earlier. This eye line fosters intimacy, and when we hear about the possible romance, it suggests that here we have a snapshot, perhaps the exact moment Achilles realised his feelings for Penthesilea. If so, this is quite astonishing, as it would be a deliberate attempt to freeze frame a moment in time rather than create an image which suggests movement. Exekias is looking to halt any dynamic in his work so we can explore the emotion contained within it. Being able to handle such a concept and apply it to a surface which isn't even flat, remember he was painting on a curved surface, is really quite incredible. It's really an image which forces you to ask questions the more you look at it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. As ever, feel free to leave comments below, and please check out my new website, www.ancientblogger.com, for links to, well, I mentioned it all earlier. I'm still compiling my lists of vases, so if you've got one that you'd like featured, tweet me at ancientblogger. Till next time, keep safe and take care.